Well, many people believe that someone, or maybe even themselves, have that all figured out before you got here. So there was a plan that was set into motion, and now you're here to find it and fulfill it. And we want to say that that is partially true in the sense that you really wanted to come, and you knew that you would be of value, but you did not have everything all figured out before you got here. Instead, you know that you are a creator, and you knew that the environment that surrounded you would inspire new ideas. In other words, it was your absolute knowing that life would cause you to give birth to desires, and that giving birth to the desires was the creative process, and that then to fulfill your life's purpose, that you would have to become a vibrational match to what you had created. Don't you think that's nice to know?
Yes.
And does that satisfy you at all, or are you really wanting there to have been some big plan that now you are here to discover? In other words, we would like to put it to you in that sort of a question to sort of get your attention. Would you rather be one who is here to figure out what was already predestined and then live it, or do you like the idea of being the creator of your own experience?
I like that idea, but it's just been a little scary.
Why?
I don't know.
You see, it can't be scary if you really get it that you are an extension of source energy, and that your life is causing you to expand, and then you are working to get up to speed with what you've expanded to, and therefore feeling the fulfillment and the joy of that. That wouldn't be scary. But we can see how it would be scary if you think, I'm supposed to be something I'm not being.
Mm-hmm.
We think it could be scary if you don't know how to find your path, but we don't think it could be scary if you know that positive emotion is shining a light on your path, and that negative emotion is showing you opposition to that. We can see how it would be scary if you think you cannot fulfill your purpose, but only satisfying when you know you can. A young man sat in the chair one day and he said, Abraham, I had this burning question, and my friend said I shouldn't ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And we said, we're glad you're going to ask it, because we consider it the best question that we are ever going to be asked. And he said, why does the dog put its head out the window of the automobile? and risk getting bugs in its eyes? And we said, because the ride is so worth it. And so that's what you intended from your non-physical. You knew that there would be contrast, and you knew that at times you would know more clearly what you don't want than you even know what you do want. But you knew from that wise perspective that in all of that sifting, that new desires would be born. And from that vantage point, you never for a moment worried or wondered that you would be able to move in the direction of the new desire. For you understood that the universe expands in just that way. You understand the contrasting value of giving birth to preferences. Sometimes people will say, and they really mean it, I wish that all of the bad things in this world could go away, and I could be left only with the good things. And we say, we understand how that feathered nest seems like a good place, but we promise you that if you were surrounded only with what you want right now, then you could not give birth to something beyond it. And if you and others could not give birth to something beyond where you stand, there would be no evolution of no species, first of all. But even bigger, there would be no expansion that source would then ride the rocket of, and then the eternalness that we are all so aware of could not be. So you have to understand that the variety or contrast is what puts the eternalness in eternity. And so when you get it, that's the promise of what we all are expanding to be, then you say, well, I can sort of get that. I get that we are eternal and that life will go on and on. I just don't know where I fit into all of this. And we say, you fit in at the very hub of all of that. You and others like you. We do not think that you give nearly enough credit for the desire that you give birth to. Do you know? Look at it this way. So here you are living life in this time and in this space. giving birth to your version of what you think would be an improved environment, whether you're watching television or whether you're watching your neighborhood, living your own life. And as you give your perspective of what you think would be better, it goes into a vibrational escrow that is the promise of the future, because source energy becomes it. And future generations are born from that vantage point. So imagine the vibrational escrow that mass consciousness is creating. And then for a moment see that as the vantage point from which the new generations are coming forth. Can you see the value of what you are living? Can't you get it? That those who lived before you are partially responsible for the platform into which you were born? And so you can't get it wrong, even if you didn't know anything about deliberate creation, even if you didn't know anything about the stream or anything about your guidance system. So you just observed some things and felt good and observed some other things and felt bad. Even if you were a very indeliberate creator, creating life by default, as most humans are, you would still be contributing mightily to that vibrational escrow, and future generations would still benefit. And the eternalness of that which we all are would still be in place. And so we don't have to have a gathering to talk about that. That's just the natural evolution of the universe. That's just the natural becoming of the eternal creators that we all are. You don't even have to know anything about that. But the reason that we're here talking with you about it is because we think you should enjoy your head out the window. We think life should be fun to you along the way. We don't think that you should sacrifice your life in order to give birth to desires that others who are just being born will now have the knowledge of. We think you should receive the benefit of it now. So we think your question ties in absolutely perfectly, because your question is, how do I fulfill my reason for being? How do I know what my path is? And how do I follow that path? And we say, do you hear how big and important that question is? How do I get in on the natural evolution that I am causing to be? And we say, the way you do it is by deciding that nothing matters more than that you feel good. That while there are conditions and circumstances out there that you may very well observe that may be very fact-based, very full of truth, just because they're true doesn't mean they deserve your undivided or any of your attention. And so sometimes we tease Esther, because we see that even Esther, in all of the years that she's been hearing us and allowing us to flow through her, even Esther sometimes would rather be right than feel good. She will gather the statistics and weigh the pros and the cons, and she will know that her perspective on it is right. Sometimes she will even get a hit on something, and she'll say, Abraham, is the way I'm seeing it the way it really is? Is that person really telling a lie? And did that really happen in the way I think it did? In other words, is that the guilty one and that the innocent one? And we will always tell her what we see from our perspective, and often she will feel very proud. I knew I was right. And we say, yes, but do you feel good in your rightness? Because just because you're right does not mean that you are in alignment. And some think, well, Abraham, if you can give Esther the answer, how can you give Esther an answer to something that she feels right about, but then she doesn't feel good, and you don't feel bad about it? And we say, because we do not look at things and push against them ever. In other words, when you as humans live life experience and you give birth to something that is desired out of it, we always turn our undivided attention to the improvement, to the expansion, to the evolution. And when you do that, you will live happily ever after. So humans have a hard job, we will acknowledge, because you stand in the midst of all of this variety, and a lot of it you don't want to see. It makes you feel bad when you see it. And yet Abraham says that variety is necessary to you giving birth to the new idea. And you say, oh, I really am leading edge. I came forth from a place of feeling good into an environment that might make me feel bad. And we say, yes, but you always have the ability to turn immediately to what feels good. Sometimes humans will say, why would I come at all, Abraham? If non-physical is pure positive energy, why would I agree to be exposed to this contrast, so much of which makes me feel bad? And we say, because you are a creator first and foremost. And you knew that from the variety you would choose. And you did not, from your non-physical vantage point, see any of it as awful. You saw it more like a smorgasbord or a buffet. where you say, I would like some of that, and I would like some of that, and I would like some of that. And yet that doesn't seem like enough to you. It doesn't seem like that's fulfilling my purpose, to merely live life and say, some of that please, some of that please, some of that please. And yet it is. Humans get sidetracked because you go to the buffet line. Can you imagine going to the buffet line and saying to the nice people behind the glass, I don't want that. I've had that. That's awful. I don't want that. That just doesn't look good. That's probably got something wrong with it. I saw it on CNN. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. Or that, or that, or that. And in time, they would say to you, spoon in hand, well, why don't you tell me what you do want? And that really is what we're talking about here. That really, it is as simple as that. From this plethora of choices, your work is to just say, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And the more you talk about what you do want, and the less you talk about what you don't want, the more you go with the flow, and the more you begin to feel the actualization, the realization, the manifestation of what's been waiting for you in vibrational escrow. And when you get flowing like that, you don't ask questions like, why am I here, or what's my purpose? Because you're having such a good time. And further, what happens is contrast causes you to ask for it, but you're already going the direction of it. So almost as soon as you ask, it happens. And almost as soon as you ask, it happens. And almost as soon as you ask, it happens. And you know what? That's the way we feel your life unfolding. Do you realize? The basis of your question is really interesting. The basis of your question is, Abraham, I don't think I've suffered enough to really have been living a life that is really worthwhile. I don't have a book to write. I haven't dug myself into a terrible hole and then crawled out of it. So nobody wants to publish my book. I've just been living sort of happily ever after. And that can't be worth much. And we say, it's what you planned. You said, I'll go forth. Variety will inspire me. I'll line up with it, and I'll receive it. So often people count the success of their life on how wide the crevasse is between what they want and where they are. And so if they really, really want something that they're really, really not letting in, then they feel really, really alive. And we say, that's really, really hard. It's not the way you intended it. Although there is some drama in that, and you don't have much of that drama, and so you're wondering how well you're living your life. But that drama is about, I don't want that, I want that, I don't want that, I want that, don't want that, want that, want that, want that, want that, want that. So I get the stream going really good. So I've got a really fast-moving stream, but I belong to all these clubs and all of these groups, and so I'm not letting it go. And so the stream is really beating me up. And then something happens where I have some sort of collapse, where I can't keep fighting the current, and so somehow, maybe I hear a recording in the car that my mother is playing. No, not that. Not that. I meet a friend, something happens, I withdraw from whatever my negative, I fall in love, I withdraw from my negative rampage for a little while, and I begin going with the flow, and all of a sudden, things that I've been wanting for a long time begin flowing into my experience. And sometimes, especially when you've been resisting, as most people are, and then you begin hearing about the art of allowing, and you begin deliberately appreciating, you begin deliberately turning in the stream, all kinds of things initially begin to flow into your experience that were sort of lined up outside your door. And then you like the drama of that. In other words, there's something about being really hungry and eating that is more satisfying to many of you than eating because it's time to eat. And that's what we feel from you. We think that the reason that you are asking this question, how do I fulfill my life's purpose, is because you don't let as much gap between what you want and what you allow as others. And so there's not as much drama. And so you don't get any big books written about you. So now you understand you're right on track, yes?
Yes.
That you're fulfilling your life's purpose, yes?
Yes.
So now you can be less tentative about things and get out there. If your life isn't exciting enough for you, then just do more exploration, do more expanding. Don't be afraid of the contrast. And we do feel a little bit of that from you, from a lot of you. You say, oh, I'm feeling